I would like to thank IACC and FAME Tamil Nadu for giving me this opportunity to come and present to all of you all. So as Sujata mentioned, I used to work with AT&T before, so I was head of their IoT business. So I've had a lot of experience in engaging with many startups because a part of my role was to engage with startups where we could take some of the startup solutions and take that to some of the manufacturing customers of AT&T. So I've kind of had the exposure to the requirements of large manufacturers, and I also know some of the startups who have some very great solutions who can address some of the challenges that the both large and small manufacturers are facing. Now, as far as today's agenda is concerned, I wanted to very quickly highlight some of the key business imperatives for MSMEs, and I'm going to focus a lot on, especially in the factory, how you can improve productivity, improve efficiency, a lower cost of maintenance. I'm going to present 3 case studies, and then I would conclude by talking about the way forward as it relates to MSMEs in their digital journey, right? It is always going to be a journey. It's never going to be an end state. Now, if you just look at some of the key business imperatives for MSMEs, the first and foremost requirement would obviously be access to capital for CapEx, for working capital requirements and so on. But the point I wanted to highlight is that today, given the kind of digital transformation India has undergone, especially when it relates to payments and access to capital through digital means, I think there are enough and more opportunities now for MSMEs to leverage that, right? So today, one not necessarily can go to banks for loans, but there are enough fintechs who are now willing to lend. So the definite use of digital there. Second and most importantly is how do you ensure that you are able to ensure the employee experience. That is such an important dimension. And today there are enough digital technologies that are available to make sure that employees within your own enterprises are taken care of. And a simple example is just making sure that air quality measurement within your factory, if you're able to measure air quality and ensure that it is good, that goes a long way in making sure that the health of the employee is taken care of, right? And there are technologies like IoT, which is available today. We can remotely monitor air quality monitors and ensure that air quality is maintained. And if you're keeping your employees happy, then obviously it means that they'll keep their customers happy, right? And today we are living in an economy of experiences, and the need is to ensure that you are able to engage with customers, right? And there are enough and more tools available today when you talk about customer experience, right? So your digital marketing tools, which are available, right? Whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's social media, to be able to engage with customers early on, right? From the time they are wanting to select a product and being there through the whole journey. Again, digital will play a big part there. And then, of course, how do you do more with less, right? So you want to reduce your cost of operation, you want to improve productivity, operational efficiency, and in that context, I'm going to share some case studies. And while it is important that you are able to reduce cost in your business internally, as well as in terms of how do you engage with your external world, what is also very, very important is how do you ensure you are able to come up with products and services that can have an impact on revenue generation, right? Because while IoT can definitely help reduce cost, today it is possible, especially for discrete manufacturers of discrete products, one can fuse IoT into their products and offer a product which is IoT enabled. So that way what happens is that you're able to remotely monitor the product, you're getting better visibility of the products in the field, cost of maintenance comes down, and even for the end customer, even before they know the problem, the manufacturer knows, and they would alert the customer saying that, hey, there's a problem and I'm going to fix it remotely, right? So the need for manufacturers now to be able to innovate around their business models to offer, say, products as a service. Today, the standard model is manufacturers selling products one time, but today, thanks to IoT, and when you go one step ahead, analytics and AI, one can actually embed all that into a product and offer products as a service. And that goes a long way in creating differentiation, right? So if MSMEs have to be competitive, in fact, my title was, how do you ensure that you are able to be competitive in a very difficult world that we live in? Now, I wanted to highlight a few case studies, and because I've engaged quite a lot with startups, I wanted to share case studies of 3 startups that I've known. And one is a company called RoboSpace. and they built a product called iFactory.ai. They are based in Hyderabad. And this is a solution that they built where they're able to track the productivity, the quality, the uptime, downtime of pretty much every asset in the factory, your machines, people, and so on. Now, what are the components of that solution? The components of the solution is, first thing is that they have a human-machine interface that they built to connect to the machines. Where you're able to get visibility of pretty much everything, whether it is your status of the machines, is it idling, is it running, uptime, downtime, breakup, quality reports, and so on. It's also got an IoT gateway because you need to integrate the HMI, the human-machine interface, where you get your dashboard, where you're able to see all this in real time, to connect to an IoT gateway, because you need that to send the data to the cloud, or you could probably have an edge device where you can process it locally and where you can respond quickly to alerts. Now, here I wanted to highlight a case where they implemented the solution for a very large cable manufacturer. Now, if this is for a maintenance-related use case, right? So, and one very common challenge which a lot of the manufacturers face today is unplanned downtime, right? Does it ring a bell? Unplanned downtime is a big global challenge. And as per a study by Forbes, 82% of the companies that they surveyed have encountered at least one unplanned downtime incident over the last 3 years. And the unplanned downtime cost for these manufacturers was a whopping $50 billion. It's huge, right? And the reason, and when you have unplanned downtime, that means that your cost for maintenance goes up, you lack real-time visibility, your equipment is not very reliable, right? And because of this, it has a direct bearing on the productivity, right? So your machines are not performing. That means that it has an impact on your customer experience. You're not able to deliver as per what you have committed to your customer, right? So this is a big challenge. And when you talk about wanting to maintain machines, it's always going to be a journey, right? It's going to be preventive. It's then going to be condition-based maintenance, where you're going to leverage IoT. And over a period of time, as you get a lot more data and you're able to implement AI and machine learning, you'll get to a stage where you're able to predict when a machine might fail or a subsystem machine within that machine might fail. Now, what they did is, this is a company which is called Thermopads. I can't mention the name there, but I got the permission to voice out the name. It's called Thermopads. It's based in Hyderabad. It's about it's around 600 crores in terms of revenue. And they make a lot of industrial heating systems. For example, floor heating mats, under tile heating cables, floor heating cables, snow heating cables, heating tracers, and so on and so forth. Now, here what they wanted to do is, they actually wanted to reduce their unplanned downtime. They wanted to improve their maintenance response. And of course, they wanted to ensure that the operator efficiency went up. And the solution was very, very simple. Okay, so they built an IoT gateway for about 10,000 odd rupees. So that gateway has got the required network module with a SIM card in it, which will connect to the cloud. They also built a human-machine interface. I showed a picture earlier in the earlier slide, a very simple HMI in which you can pretty much see all your dashboards. So there's seamless integration between the HMI gateway as well as the IoT gateway. Sorry, the HMI interface and the IoT gateway. And after they have implemented this, now this is just like an ROI tool that they've computed. One can actually mention what the cost of the product is, production speed, and so on. And one can actually see how much they can reduce their downtime. Now, after having implemented the solution, they found that this particular company was able to reduce their maintenance cost by almost 20%. It's almost like 3,12,000 per machine, and over a period of time, it was significant saving for Thermopads. So this is one example of how, by using a very simple HMI interface with a gateway, one can get a better visibility of your machines, and by able to reducing your maintenance cost, you can actually see the benefit. Now, this is another case study from a company which is called Emorphis, and they are based in Indore. I had a chance to meet their founder at a CIS summit a few months back, and they built a platform called iThings. Now, what they did is, this is for a solution for a company called Darling Pumps. Again, I had the permission to present the case study, but not mention the name of the client there, but the voice of the name. So this is Darling Pumps, less than 100 crore turnover. They have pretty much operations across India. They even export pumps outside, and they make a range of pumps, submersible pumps, hot water pumps, stainless steel pumps, and so on. And they call their pumps smart. It's called Smart Pumping Solution, SMART. And the full form of SMART is simple pumps, maintainable pumps, affordable pumps, reliable pumps, and trustworthy pumps. And they have pretty much a range of machines in their factory. They have lathe machines, bend saw machines, radial drilling machines, and so on and so forth. Now here, what they wanted to do is, first thing is to get visibility of the pumps which are being made in their shop floor, right? So they had challenges before where the output, the pumps used to have defects, and that led to quality issues. So they wanted to first connect to all these legacy pumps using IoT. So they built a device called iNetra, and that's a gateway that they built. And using that gateway, they were able to connect to the pumps using pretty much the right sensors. They were able to design the right sensors that will capture voltage information, temperature information, current, and so on and so forth. And after they have implemented the solution, again, it was a very, very simple solution. It was not very complex. In fact, I'll share what they did. There's a cost for a subscription of the platform. This platform is called iThings because all the data that you're going to get from these pumps have to go into a platform where you got to ingest that data, visualize the data. There's a cost for the device, the one-time cost, subscription cost for the platform, and certain things that they need to do to work with the OEM. So they need a panel meter with accessories, they needed an electrical panel, and of course they needed data connectivity. So for that they needed to go to the cellular provider, right? So by using this solution where they were able to monitor the pumps, control these pumps remotely, and they use a combination of edge and cloud, right? So some of the data goes to the cloud, and some of the data gets processed by using an edge device that can process data locally wherever the data, closer to where the data is getting generated, and that way they can respond faster to any events. And after they have implemented the solution, one is, of course, they are able to measure what was not measurable before, and that's thanks to IoT, whether it's voltage and current, power consumption. That was a big important metric for them to measure, pump run hours, and so on. They started to see the impact, almost 10% reduction in manufacturing cost and 5% reduction in warranty and settlement expenses, right? So as far as Darling Pumps is concerned, they wanted to go through a journey where they wanted to start with few and then slowly expand by connecting more of these pumps through IoT. And as Mr. Sundara mentioned, it's always important to start with one machine, right? You start with one machine and then increase it to more machines. And here it was case of pumps, but the whole objective is to slowly scale this over a period of time. And I'm sure that, as they progress in that digital journey, that the cost reduction will be even more, so they'll be able to reduce the cost of manufacturing and also the cost of warranty settlement, because that today is a big challenge for manufacturers. How do they reduce the cost of the warranty settlement? Now, the last case study which I wanted to give is from a Bangalore-based startup called Flamenco Tech. I wouldn't call it a startup, it's about 12 years old, but they have built some very good solutions for energy optimization. Especially, it could be large real estate buildings, it could even be in manufacturers. But if you just look at the case study, this is for a large air compressor company. It's about 500 odd crores in terms of turnover. And I'm not going to go into the details because the gentleman earlier gave an example of how you can use IoT to monitor air compressors. But today, one big factor when you look at cost of an air compressor, lifetime cost, 70% as per a study, 70% of air compressors' lifetime cost comes from power consumption. And every additional bar of pressure can increase power consumption by 7%, right? So when you look at energy optimization as a use case, this is going to be significant because given the focus on ESG, environmental, social, and governance goals, and as a country, as we committed to reduce to being carbon neutral by 2070, The onus is now on the industries to do their part to make sure that they are able to leverage technology to optimize on their energy usage, right? So one big area where one can actually reduce their energy consumption is HVAC, heating, ventilation, and ACs. So one can actually sensorize this, get data, you measure it, and then you're able to optimize it over a period of time, right? But when you look at some of these products like air compressors, very, very important to ensure that you're able to remotely monitor this. So they've installed a cellular SIM in a module, and that way they are able to IoT enable that air compressor. And they're able to ensure that the air filters, they need constant change. They need to ensure constant air audits, and that is remotely now possible using IoT. And after they have implemented the solution, if you just see the outcome there, I think I'm not able to read this, but they got a payback within 2 years. They had a big investment to make initially, but over a period of 18 to 24 months, they were actually able to see a payback, right? So these are 3 examples which I wanted to give you. What for machine, how do you reduce the operating cost of maintenance of machines? I gave you the example of submersible pump, a product, and of course air compressors. And I just wanted to end in terms of what would be the way forward for MSMEs. I'm not going to go through all these details here, but I think to start with, we need a lot more awareness in terms of what are the use cases that are possible as far as the MSMEs are concerned. And because I've engaged with quite a few startups, I know some of these solutions which the startups have, great solutions from the startups, but they don't have access to opportunities, right? So I'm kind of trying to play that role of trying to bridge that gap, trying to connect the startup to the MSMEs. But they need, MSMEs need awareness in terms of what are the realms of possibilities, what are the solutions that the startups offer, right? So that's one, a lot more awareness. Start with a very small project. So IoT, the mantra is very simple. You start small, you think of the bigger picture, and then you need to scale fast. It's only when you scale fast, that's when you can realize a lot more business benefits. Other important dimension is that while you may not have the bandwidth, financial bandwidth to have a big IT department, but it's important to have at least one person who can champion your digital initiatives within your operation, within your factory, or within your organization. So I think it's good to have one person because in IoT, when you implement IoT across an organization, one big challenge is change management, because when you want to make changes, because digital transformation is all about trying to change the way you operate, trying to change the way you engage with customers. And when you want to do that, at times culture becomes a challenge. So while you have the top trying to drive digital initiatives, you need to have someone who can work and align with all the other functions, making sure that they're all aligned to the digital vision of the company, right? So, and then also the need for you all to, and I really like to compliment IACC and even FAME to have such forums. You need forums like this where we can get all of you all to hear what is possible, right? So these are very, very important. And then finally, I just wanted to, end by saying that there are enough drivers now for manufacturers to adopt IoT because the cost of sensors are coming down, the cost of IoT devices are coming down. A couple of years back, government launched the PLI scheme, the Production Linked Incentive Scheme. 14 sectors were identified. One of them was the telecom sector, and under the telecom sector, IoT devices, where today most of the chipsets, the modules, they're all coming from outside. The government wants to have them manufactured in India, including the chips. It might probably take a couple of years, but when you manufacture IoT devices in India, the cost will come down even further, and that will drive a lot more adoption. And if you look at connectivity costs, today the cost of connectivity in India is the lowest in the world. The data tariffs that we pay today, no other country pays such low tariffs, right? So that's another driver. And of course, you can use on-prem data centers to store your data. You can move data to cloud, but even the cost of cloud is coming down, right? So I think there are enough and more drivers now for you all to seriously take that step of faith and implement, to start with an IoT solution. So on that note, I would like to end my talk. Thank you once again.